Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Habits of Influence, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of entrepreneurship and how to become the person who others wish to follow without losing the sanity in the process. And every single week, I'm here with you, Magdalena, Hanah, and my co-host,
Ian Manheimer.
And we are so happy to each and every single one of you coming back with us every single week, where we discuss topics that might not necessarily be undertaken a lot. They might be quite controversial. They might be out of the ordinary. It's not a tips and tricks kind of podcast, but it is a podcast that will teach you how to be a very powerful entrepreneur. So hello to everybody coming back. Hello as well to everyone that is new. Today, I would like to actually piggyback on our last week's topic and continue, as promised, a little bit about the people who are taking themselves a little bit too seriously. That's what we talked about last week, and I believe we finished in giving an example of people that are so damn serious about themselves. And this is kind of like the other side, the flip side of, whenever you're trying to be a little bit more lenient with yourself, then you can become too serious, and then that may lead to you becoming obnoxious and entitled. And last week I've met tons of people like that, but I see it in my line of work. I see it nonstop with people that comment on my posts, people that talk business with me, people that I generally observe, my competitors, but not just competitors. I see the tendencies of entitlement within my friends as well. Sometimes when things are going good for you, as opposed to, last week we were talking about all the difficult the struggles, the bad moments. Sometimes when things go very good for people, or good enough for people, that is enough to become that obnoxious, horrible person that makes everybody else feel bad for themselves. Can you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, and I mean the entitlement thing is such a broad topic, because right now, I don't say everybody. Right now, societally, there's the younger generations who just feel like the world owes them something. And then, like what you're talking about, certain people who, own businesses, or just because you're a business owner, you walk in somewhere and you think that the world should be at your beck and call, or you deserve better service because you're this person or this status or whatever. And it's a bunch of bukkake. It's like it's not accurate. I mean, we all have a responsibility to be good human beings, regardless of where we are, where we come from, what our status is, how much our bank account has in it, what kind of car we drive, what kind of house we live in. We all have a responsibility to be decent human beings.
Yeah. And I don't know if that kind of comes out of not being sure of themselves, or just generally not liking yourself too much. Sometimes, I've got this impression that the more people don't like themselves, the more problems they have with themselves, the more they try to kind of affirm to everybody else or show to everybody else of how great and amazing and smart and beautiful and attractive and knowledgeable they are. And like I said, because I'm in the line of work where you basically market yourself based on your achievements and what and your expertise, it a lot of the times it goes so much too far out of what it should be, that basically you repel people. I've got two stories that I want to talk to you about, but I know that you really wanted to discuss this topic as well. You're quite passionate about it. You're one of the most decent people I have met, and there is not a bone of selfish in your body. That's one thing that I can say about you. So I do know that you do have your own problems. Taking it very lightly, putting it very lightly, you do have a bone to pick with people that are entitled or think that they are better than everybody else.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go. You made a comment a little while ago that made me think of an old saying that I learned probably when I was in middle school. You said the people who boast and brag and this and that and are usually the ones that have the least self-esteem, and it made me think of the old saying, the dog that barks doesn't bite.
Mm.
It's and coming from a Native American background, there is a cultural component too. Like the people who were like the medicine people or the spiritual people, the with Khan, or the people who were held in high regard. They're not the ones that went around saying how spiritually were, how they were healers or whatever. It was everyone else that brought people to them. It wasn't them going out saying, "Oh, look at me, look at me. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Oh, you should come to me. I'll take you." Never would that happen in that type of society. And we've gotten this rhythm, this habit of trying to build ourselves up into something we're not. And we talked about this, I think, in an earlier episode too, about living in a world that's fake, padded, it's filtered, it's we put on these false images to try to impress, and it doesn't. And I think when the entitlement piece, when people, and yeah, that is a huge, you're right, it's a huge pet peeve of mine, because I believe in treating people well and earning where we go. And I'm all for helping people get raise up. I've mentored people that are in my industry. I'm a firm believer that the only way we get stronger is by helping each other, or by growing together, or being a good person, and being not being too up there, or humbling ourselves enough to be able to ask for help when we need it. And that's sometimes really hard. And then we get in that know-it-all stage where people think they know it all, or they act like they know it all, or they put themselves above and they look down on people. And it's just, I just think that really does not, it bugs me. I can't even get the words out, like, ah.
But what's interesting? I hear you talk, and I'm kind of, at the back of my head, I'm visualizing, and I'm trying to just think of different people that I meet on my journey. And what you're saying, it is true. But have you noticed that there's an interesting correlation that people who are not really very successful, like you said, like those little dogs, they are the ones that are mainly inclined to shout about their results. Those are the people that show those bank statements, the posts. I recently actually, I saw a post of one of their coaches. I don't know what he's coaching. Something like, affiliate, I think. I don't know. Anyway, he was laughing out of people that don't post those bank statements, and it made me think. I was like, so there are people out there that just walk around and say, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes it may not be the case that what we perceive from a person is so much their entitlement or their bad will. It might be something that is taught to them, and they think that this is what they're supposed to be doing. And when I'm looking at people, I do have friends amongst like 8-9 figure earners, very, very wealthy people. And those are the people who, when I see their posts, I really laugh, because they're usually like considerations. Their marketing is not about shouting of how many people they have helped, or how much money they have made. It's usually kind of like, I'm putting together this and that, and I know, obviously, because those people are already having results, they are known for being results, but it's more like of a consideration. Like, I'm really proud that I did this, and I'm going to be putting together a training, would you like that? Would that be all right? And on the other hand, the person that I talked about, so like, probably based on one of those posts that I'm describing, like the considerations, like, would you like that? People that I'm talking about, the entitled ones, they laugh out of posts like that.
Yeah. And it's, when you're talking, it made me think of the people who are often the ones who aren't successful, and the ones who are struggling are usually the ones that are putting everyone else down that are successful. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Otherwise, well, this person does it wrong, or I would never do it like that, or whatever. And we talked about this in a previous episode too. I think it was about where we're talking about finding coaches and how do we find coaches. And it was along the lines of finding people who are where we want to be, not where we are now, or where we were in the past, where we want to be. And it's really an interesting. As you're talking, I'm just thinking about this. I was trying to look up. There's this quote about something. I was trying to find it, and if I can find it, I'll share it. But The way in which we think and the way in which we talk is very powerful. And who are we talking about? Are we talking about solutions? Are we talking about growth? Are we talking about people? And it's like small-minded people talk about people.
Yeah.
Not people who are not growth-minded. You're going to find people who are going to want to talk about solutions. They're going to talk about how do we fix things? How do we grow? And it's a we. It's not like me. How do I grow? It's we. How do we do it? How do
Yeah,
we
but
solve this
also,
problem?
sorry to cut in here, because you're talking about, yeah, of course, there will be situations like a lot of the times, I'm very sarcastic. I'm very sarcastic by nature, and some people may perceive me as a close-minded person because I'm a typical conservative. I hate the woke culture, all the shouting about, delicacy and how delicate we all are, and how like I've been raised in different times, and I believe different things. There are certain things right now that I really really value, and they're absolutely great. A lot of the movements they had a good basis. I believe we've talked about this too. But I do tend to be a little bit sarcastic. So some people may perceive me or take me as a person who laughs out of other people. And that's not the case. I usually just laugh out of laughable things. And the fact that they are sometimes connected with people, or I put a person, I never do name a person, but I put a representation of a person in my post to kind of make a point, it ruffles a lot of feathers. And there's a lot of a lot of people that come to a comment and say, nah, this is not the way it is. It's like, it's differently. I don't agree with you, or things like that, and immediately you can see that people are very, very delicate because this sheer entitlement is so widely spread that we are starting to get used to being attacked. And even if it's not someone's intention to attack, it's just like in my case, I just need to be sarcastic. That's how I express myself. Sometimes I just need to laugh out of things that are happening because they're so ridiculous that somebody needs to point them out. But immediately I get those reactions of being offended, and this is, I'm not understanding it right, this is not the way it is, and my opinion is blah 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 blah. So I immediately need to resort to saying, like, I respect your opinion. This is just to highlight a situation, not attack you personally. But like you're saying, yes, people will talk about people, but it's not so prominent or so obvious when you are talking about business or the online world, because these are not face-to-face, human-to-human interactions. This is a human to millions on the internet interactions, which may be perceived one way or the other. So the thing that I wanted to actually pinpoint today, and I believe one of our listeners asked us to kind of discuss it a little bit, is entitlement coming from, like I said in the beginning, something's going right a little bit in your business, not to the point of like you're not famous, you haven't left a legacy yet, you're not God knows who, but let's say you have plenty of followers on Instagram. And I believe that's the scenario that one of our listeners has actually given me when she was writing a message to me. So like, Magdalena, a good friend of mine actually, Magdalena, could you guys please talk about this, because I can't stand this. Who do people think they are, writing to someone thinking that they're God's gift, and you're just waiting for that message from them in an inbox because they've got such and such amount of followers. And I think that's a widespread problem, right? The influencers, like, I've got 1 million, I've got 200,000, I've got like, and those people start to believe that they are more than they actually are, or that they are definitely more than the people that they're speaking with. So the way that they're speaking with you, and the way that I get, those comments I get sometimes under my posts, I have an impression of coming from the place of, I'm better than you, I know better than you, what stupid thing did you write? At the same diminishing me as a respondent, or the person who has posted something, something sarcastic, something for a laugh, because I'm not as knowledgeable as this person. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like putting me down, and demanding respect towards yourself, because clearly being aggravated and triggered by what I wrote. So demanding respect, but at the same time not respecting me as a person on the same level. when you're talking to me. And I think, and that situation that my friend described is exactly the same. She said, I've got this person that keeps on writing to me, and I keep on asking, please stop sending me messages, and the person just keeps on, attacking her and kind of like pushing things on her, commenting on all of her stuff. I don't know. Have you, met situations like that? And how should we deal with that? Because I'm sure this is not just, mine or her situation. I think this is more common that you might think, because reading other people's posts, other people's comments, or other people's just stalking other people's profiles, which is part of my job. I can see this is not like a one-off situation.
Yeah, it's not something I've personally dealt with a lot, with being attacked or like bullied, or people like just pushing. I think probably it's either I either ignore it if it comes through, or if I respond to them, I just say, okay, well, if you really want to talk, let's talk and show me your stuff. Show me what, and we talked about that before, is, when I would talk with people with their like MLMs or network marketers, it's like, okay, well, show me your bank account. If you're where I want to be, then I'll listen to you. So I don't think I've again, I personally have not experienced a lot of that, but I'm also in a different, I'm not in the coaching realm or in the, in the environment that you are. I think you probably see a lot more of that than I do. I do get emails, and it always blows my mind when people just message me like, hey, I saw you're in this. I think you'd really benefit from coming to my blah, 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 blah. Great. You know nothing about me.
I remember you sent me an email recently, though, where there was a salesperson trying to pitch you a SEO package
Yeah.
for your website, even though, and just throwing a lot of smart words in there. And because I do quite a bit of SEO for people, and just like half of the things that you showed me in that email, they were just like unnecessary, very smart words, wise words, technical, terms that don't do anything. But
Yeah,
a
I
person
think it was
clearly,
funny. I think what was funny about that was they sent me an email saying that my site wasn't ranking well, or not visible.
and
I'm
it's
like,
number one.
I'm like, oh yeah, that was what they said. They promised to get me number one when it's already there, and I'm like, well, if it's not very visible, how'd you find me? It's like, just maybe, and then, yeah, it was like, yeah, I guarantee we'll make you number one. I said, yeah, it's easy to make me number one if I'm already there. You
Yeah,
can guarantee that.
yeah. But it stings a little bit, doesn't it? Because you receive that message like, you're either stupid yourself or you're making an idiot out of me. And either way, it's kind of offensive, isn't it? Like, we're talking about offense. I offend people by doing sarcastic things, but so are those replies, so are those emails, so are those, shooting your shot without asking people what they actually need, or doing your research. A lot of the time I get those messages, those inbox messages, like, and they write to me and they ask me, what do you do? Like, if you go to my profile, I don't even have a personal profile. Everything I do is for business. So if you go anywhere, you Google my name, and you have a full information showing up on the first pages of Google of who am I. You can ask Alexa, she can tell you, for God's sakes. Like, if you're really, really lazy and you don't want to type, because I don't know, you're scared that you are gonna mistype my name or something like that.
And we
It's
talked
just a
about
case
that.
of, but every single time I get that, it's not a case of me, like I said, you might think like, oh, she said you can ask Alexa about her name, or you can Google her name. She comes up on the first. Obviously, if you tap anybody's name, they're gonna come up on the first page because it's your bloody name. It's usually that. It's not a case of me now sitting and saying like blah blah blah. Do you know who I am? But it's a case of, I feel disrespected. I feel violated. I feel like I'm less off because the person couldn't even give the time of day to research me. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these people are just salespeople. They're struggling to make whatever. They're just reaching out to anybody under the sun trying to make a dollar.
Mm.
And we talked about that in a previous episode, where like not actually knowing your audience. Who are you selling, and being able to reach out to those people. And if you're trying to make a sale, actually learn about your client. What is it they need? and filling a need instead of trying to make a sale. And these people who send these emails or just reach out in inboxes or whatever, they're not taking the effort, like you said, to research who you are or what you do or what your skill set is or what you need. They're just like, I'm going to try to make money. And I guess maybe that's where you're talking about with the sense of entitlement, where they think they're above everybody, or they just have this, everyone needs what I have, and puts themselves as an expert based on their own vision of themselves. Like, I'm the best at this, so everyone needs what I have. And
we live in a
it's just
culture
not
of experts with no expertise, isn't it? We're kind of glorifying now that, which is, like I said, every movement has good basis. Everybody can be anybody. That's what we're propagating right now. But where's the line? Where's the barrier of what you can sell for money, or what you can propose to people, or the way, or just regulating the way we speak to each other. Because like I said, my friend, she was really distraught when she wrote that message, and she said, like, listen, I'm really fed up of this person, and she's just not the only one. I keep on getting those messages nonstop and nonstop, and she said, like, please guys, just talk about the fact that I don't perceive you as a God knows who, just because you have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers. It doesn't really matter. What matters to me is what kind of a human being you are and the way you speak to me. And really, it ties in with every single topic that we've discussed up until now. Choosing a coach, choosing a business partner, choosing a person to collaborate with, choosing a romantic partner. You wouldn't choose a person that would make you feel bad all the time. You wouldn't want to be around a person like that. If it was normal life, you would not choose to put yourself in a position where you feel less of all the time, diminished beneath everybody else.
And you brought this up before, and it's like, especially in the coaching realm, where you feel there's a big disconnect between men and women, where women aren't valued as strongly. And I think a lot of it comes from that, because it sounds like the person who was emailing your friend was probably a guy. And
surprisingly, it was a woman. It was not a
okay.
woman, because that is prominent as well. That is terribly prominent, that it's women putting down other women. For whatever reasons, sometimes it's because we are so hurt and we are so undervalued that we need to, put those words, or formulate, our messages in such a way that instead of showing your expertise and showing me you're valuable, it shows me that you're a poor hurt person that is just trying to, boost yourself up, boost your own ego by putting me down, for example.
It's a whole bully mentality. It is the whole bully mentality. I don't feel good about myself, so I'm picking on other people to make them feel less than, so I feel better.
And like I said, sometimes it's not a case of, of sheer entitlement. We have to divide those two things, right? One way there's entitlement, and there's actual, I think of the most pretty, the wisest, the most experienced, and my programs are the best, and my businesses are the most successful, and my relationships are, oh my God, that's one side. And the other side is just, an entitlement or hurtful behavior that comes out of hurt. Which either way, we need to be, if we are in that, because we are in that mind frame of like everything offends everybody. Yeah, it's got the woke culture, everybody's like shouting about cancel culture, nobody can say anything, which I'm kind of in between of that, because from one side it's like people can say anything now, so I actually think cancel culture is good, because sometimes it kind of regulates the stupidity, the sheer stupidity that you see all around us, that some people like me just don't appreciate to see on a daily basis, because it just gets me out of my zone. But also, like I said, I'm conservative, so I might, some people might find me now, what I say, it might be triggering. But I also think that, in my conservatism, I believe in some of the liberal movements, and thinking that we should be more mindful about what we say to other people, the way we formulate our sentences, the way we the energy that we bring to the table whenever we try and speak to somebody, or even if we are replying to a stupid, post on social media, or we're commenting to somebody, or we're sending them a message, we should, especially us adults, we should treat this as we would treat a normal conversation, like a face-to-face conversation, on the street somewhere. You wouldn't, I mean, like, probably you wouldn't just shout at somebody, the other end of the street, sometimes like, I'm better than you.
Some people do it. Some people just do. They think they're better and they think their poop doesn't stink.
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually, it's true. It's like we're coming back to
Yeah.
those influencers, aren't we? That demand free things, free food, free services from small business owners that they just want to pay their bills. It's really bad. It's really bad. So, any thoughts on, you know, on ways on how we can get ourselves in check?
Ourselves in check from what? From not being one of those people who are entitled, or not
No,
one of those
just to
people who feel
not
entitled.
become one of those entitled people, because
Yeah.
we're all human, we are all flawed, and sometimes, if we establish that it's really put offish, unless this is just your character, of course, and you want to continue, making people feel bad about themselves around you, then by all
Yeah.
means. But we want to build a strong movement, right? We want to be the kind of person that everybody wishes to follow. So how to get
and wish
ourselves
to
in
follow
check?
in the right way, not because there's people who follow people who are asinine and disrespectful. And I would say the movement of people who wish to follow you because you're a leader, because you're
Yes,
impact, because of who you
yes,
are, because of what you represent, not because you're making stupid comments or you're insulting people and people think you're funny or
absolutely.
whatever. And I think when it comes to not becoming an entitled person, it's just remembering to stay humble, to be respectful of other people. Everyone on this earth is in their own journey, and we're all at different places. And you know, most successful people didn't get there overnight. Remember where you come from. Remember that there were times where you struggled, whether if it wasn't financially, maybe it was emotionally. If it wasn't emotionally, maybe it was physically. We all go through some sort of struggle in life, and being able to remind ourselves that everyone is going through their own struggles, not to judge other people, and to just be a good human being is going to make you, I think, more successful and more fulfilled than if you just stab people in the back, or if you're just you know entitled prick, or it's just
Mm.
you to be fulfilled. We, as humans, it's a human desire to do good, to help people, it's our nature. We've done it for centuries, and it's at least I know for me, I feel more fulfilled. I feel happier in my life when I'm out there helping others and being a good person and doing a good thing. Now, I'm not saying to do that to, you know, give yourself and only be selfless, and only do stuff for other people, but being able to say, yeah, okay, this person's struggling. I'm not going to kick them all down, or I'm not going to make fun of them, or I'm not going to pretend I'm better than them just because I have this car and they're driving a beater. It's just being able to look from a bird's eye view and realize we're all human. We all bleed the same blood. We all breathe the same air, and we're all doing the best that we can every day to be where we're at. And some of our struggles are a little bit more than others, some are less than others. And stay humble, be respectful, and do your part to be a good human being.
Yeah, and I think what you said here is very, very beautiful. But me being the practical person as I am, I would like something that I could practically do. And the thing that I would propose, which is very, very easy to kind of get yourself in check immediately, and something that I've noticed is really, really helpful to me and people around me. And believe it or not, I actually came up with that method observing my mom. My mom sometimes she has a difficult period in her life, and she's very feisty. She's very energetic, and sometimes that energy kind of transmutes into a little bit of an aggression. Like, not an as aggression isn't like she's not physical with anybody, or she doesn't shout at anybody, but she's like really being really snappy, and kind of like, she needs to give a few comments too many, and just being a little bit unfair sometimes in certain situations. So seeing that, I've kind of realized that there's a pattern in the way we behave and what happens to us afterwards. So the way you can actually get yourself in check immediately is by checking the tone of the response of a person that you're speaking with. So practically, from the practical point of view, a lot of the times we get what we emit out into the world, meaning that if a person is replying to you in a, let's say, maybe not aggressive but negative way, or a way that you would feel is attacking you, or the way you think that may be rude to you, get yourself in check if maybe your start, the beginning of that conversation, had a similar or very close energetic level. And the same goes, because imagine that sometimes there are days when you just wake up and everything goes smoothly and beautifully, and you just, you're smiling at everybody and everybody's giving you way and things just happen for you, doesn't it? It is like that because you just emit this positive, lovely energy. And there are days where you just like, you walk out of your house, you stump your toe, and you are really pissed off and things are falling out of your hands, and then you get into traffic and then you start cussing people, and then you run into a shop and the clerk is really, really rude and obnoxious to you, and you're thinking like, whoa, they're a horrible person. But then you realize that when you sit down in the evening on the same day and just like kind of trying to bring yourself back into everything that happened, it turns out that there was your energy and it was your start. A lot of the times it came from you, not from everybody else. So that's one thing that I use, very practical thing, to kind of always get myself in check. And it helps because I start noticing if I have my bad periods like every other human being, and sometimes just being maybe some unfair towards other people for a prolonged period of time, I see people kind of withdrawing and not wanting to speak to me, or I'm getting less engagement, or something happens, or somebody writes to me in a way that I feel like, oh, you're attacking me, but then I kind of go back and see that, hey, it does come from somewhere.
I love the reflection piece there, and being able to, like what you said, when things aren't going that way, or to reflect on what energy you're putting out there, because that does have a major effect. It's kind of like if you ever been in like a rush and like you catch every single red light.
Yeah.
But like when you're just like peaceful, like you said, and things are just flowing smoothly, all of a sudden like every light's green for you. There's no traffic on the road. People are
Absolutely. You always have a
it
parking
is so,
space, and everything is just brilliant.
yeah, no, that's very true. I'm really glad you brought that up.
It's just something I've noticed, and it's a pattern. It always works. Somehow it always works. Sometimes you can always trace back to that moment. I'm not saying that it's always us who screw up. It's just a case that sometimes we are not totally aware of the type of attitude we have or the type of energy we emit, because sometimes we just get up on the wrong side of the bed, or something happens, or there's more stressful periods of time, or it goes anyway. And sometimes it's been bad for so long that, like I said, and we're coming back to the very beginning, where something starts going good for us, and instead of being nice and supportive and helpful, like you said, so exhibiting all those wonderful traits of being a nice human being, we try and boast and we become entitled, and that makes everybody around us feel really, really bad. For a longer term, not the greatest solution of building a tribe of people who love you, who appreciate you, and who and by movement, that's what I mean precisely, super fans, advocates of your message. Something that I am super passionate about, and something that all my programs and all my coaching around revolves around. So just being human, normal human, right? I'm not expecting, like we said in a previous episode, like we're not expecting a saint, but at the same time being a decent human being, not an entitled prick that's just making everybody else feel miserable.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think it's a great topic.
So let's give the floor to you guys. I'm sure that you have met your horror stories or your entitled people, or you're meeting them on a daily basis, or maybe you're like me. Or maybe you're like me in an industry where this is just a daily occurrence and you're just like now starting to not feel or see this or pretend you don't see this. Tell us, first of all, I would love you to tell us your stories with entitled people. And why did I say horror stories? It's because next week it's Halloween and I'm so excited. And yeah, we are going to be talking about horror stories with people, with entitled people. We are continuing, but this time we are actually going to go into teams. We are going to go into talking about how bad can it be to have one rotten person in your business and how much impact that can have on your business, essentially. So do stay tuned for that. Remember to like and subscribe and love and, review our podcast and follow it, heart it, everything that you can to support. And also so that you don't miss any episodes because, we've got so many cool topics lined up ahead that you do not want to miss this out. Leave your comments in the comment section. Drop your topics as usual to our email and habitsofinfluence@gmail.com. And guys, stay safe, stay away from toxic people, from entitled people. Just ignore them. I think that's the best thing you can do. But if you cannot ignore that and you feel deep down inside that you might be the person who is kind of triggering certain responses and it's not a case of entitlement, then do this exercise that I've proposed. It really always works, and I'm sure it's going to work wonders on your life as well. So for this week, that will be it. Thank you so much again. Thank you to everybody, and I'm going to see you next week with another episode.
Thank you.